So we are recording.
Mm-hmm.
To get us started, can you tell me what reproductive health means to you?
I guess when I think of reproductive health, like as a phrase, my next thought is autonomy. So I think of people being able to make choices about their health as it relates to sexuality, basically, and physical reproduction. And this is just generally like a fraught area within just the cultural context that we live in. People don't, in general, have autonomy over their healthcare, and then this is a particularly fraught area of healthcare where, there's a lot of tension around choice.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some specific kind of like reproductive healthcare services or things that you think of within that umbrella?
Abortion is like the big one.
Okay.
But also access to birth control, access to hormones in general, I think is a reproductive health issue.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot actually around like trans care and access to transition services that relates to reproductive health.
Mm-hmm.
That, not that it doesn't get talked about, but that certainly I think ties into reproduction.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I guess just when you undergo like medical transition, it affects your fertility.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly something to talk about. I mean, people may want access to certain fertility related services in conjunction with trans care. There's, when it comes to abortion access, we think of abortion as being sort of a women's issue, but of course, like, women are not the only people who may get pregnant or have abortions, and I don't know, that's just an area where, probably providers and the general public could be more aware about what their patients might need or might be interested in accessing.
Yeah.
And how different areas of care actually are sort of overlap and are interconnected.
Yeah, definitely. No, you've touched on a lot of really important sort of things already, which is great. When you need information about reproductive health, where are some of the sources that you go to? Honestly,
my friends.
Your friends?
Yeah. Most of my friends are trans in some way. Some of them are MTF or FTM, but other folks are, like myself, are kind of non-binary and just identify as trans kind of under the general umbrella, but are kind of in an in-between space in terms of what our gender identity actually is, which makes it that much more difficult to talk to providers.
Yeah.
So I ask my friends for advice, like ask them what they've experienced, what kinds of questions they've asked their doctors, what I should ask for if I approach my providers. That's my first resource is friends.
And is that sort of a resource that you feel like you've had access to for a while now?
Yeah. Like, I'm 29 and I lived in the Boston area for a while, and so I've been able to develop a friend group that I trust.
Great. Are there any other sources or like places that you turn to, or is that sort of...
I feel comfortable approaching my provider, my primary care provider, but she's not the first person I ask.
Okay. And just so, since you mentioned your provider, can you tell me a little bit about like who they are, where they are?
I see a nurse practitioner at Beth Israel Deaconess.
Okay.
I formerly went to primary care at Fenway Health and actually stopped going there.
Okay.
Partly because the primary care physician that I was seeing there left. She went to Beth Israel to do like HIV research, but I also just wasn't super happy with... I really, really like Beth Israel and the whole team there. Honestly, I've not had a bad experience there. But Fenway Health, ironically, I just kept having negative experiences with them. So I made a switch.
Okay. And so when you need reproductive health care currently, it sounds like in terms of like medical settings like that, the Beth Israel is where you go?
Yep. I go to Beth Israel for most of my health needs.
And this nurse practitioner that you see, can you tell me a little bit about like just demographic information about...
I don't know. She's a middle-aged white lady.
Okay.
I don't know much else about her than that.
Sure. How long have you been seeing her?
I saw her I saw her recently. I don't go see my primary care physician as much as, or my primary care practitioner as much as I should. So like my last physical, I feel like maybe I saw her once or twice. I know that I saw her for my physical this year, and I think I've seen her before, but once or twice.
Okay.
Because of that shift, I made a change relatively recently.
Sure. Can you tell me about a specific experience you've had seeing a healthcare provider about your reproductive health care since identifying as trans? And that can be, it sounds like Fenway or where you go now, whichever.
Something actually that stands out wasn't at Fenway, and it actually wasn't at primary care. It was with my ophthalmologist at Israel. I wear glasses that I'm not currently wearing. These are not prescription, but I do have prescription glasses. And I was having an issue with one of my eyes, like the oil glands were gummed up or something, and so my eye was very dry. And I don't know what the medication would have been, but my ophthalmologist was like, well, I could prescribe you this medication, a particular medication that we don't prescribe to like women who are pregnant or might become pregnant, and like I'd be hesitant to prescribe it to you, because she was like interpreting me as a woman and as someone who might want to be pregnant. And I like, that was a weird interaction, because I was just like, oh, like I could be denied like a medication that has nothing to do actually like in itself with reproductive health, because I'm perceived as someone who might someday be pregnant. And so that was just like, she wasn't like mean about it or anything, but it was just like a weirdly degrading experience to have the decision about whether I was allowed to have access to care centered around like a purely hypothetical pregnancy.
Yeah.
I ended up not needing it, but I just wanted to be like, well, why can't you just like have me sign a waiver? Like I informed consent basically. Like, just let me know what the risks are and let me decide. But that's what stands out as like an interaction that was related to reproductive health, even though not directly about it.
Sure. And if I'd like to ask more about that experience. Was it, so when that conversation was sort of happening and the doctor was mentioning the potential risks related to a potential or hypothetical pregnancy, was it something that you then sort of like addressed with them about?
I told her what my like needs or the case with me is, which is very simple, which is that I never ever want to be pregnant. And I like said that I was like, I don't care about that. She was just kind of like hedged. She was like, well, whatever, maybe, we'll see if you actually need it.
Okay.
But I did communicate to her that I like absolutely do not care if there's any risk to a pregnancy.
Okay. How did it feel to say that?
Like her? Awkward, I guess, because I feel like I shouldn't have to, you know? And that's something that like maybe my mind's not going to change, but like my mind could change. Like what if the answer had been different? What if I did want to get pregnant sometime? And I was still willing to like take this risk with this particular medication at a particular time. I don't know. Like I said, just like let me let me have a paper that says everything that could go wrong, all the possible risks, and like let me sign off on it.
And that wasn't sort of an option in that.
That wasn't something that was presented to me. I don't know what would have happened if she had like decided that was an intervention that I could have needed.
Yeah. And it seems like, in a way, too, like if I'm hearing you right, that it was sort of unexpected that it came up in that context, because it wasn't a healthcare visit where you were necessarily there.
We were talking about my eyes.
Yeah.
So it was just it was weird to me that that even came up.
Are there other experiences where you have like explicitly thought out reproductive health care that are also memorable, whether in a good way or a bad way?
No, I mean, like the last time like that I had like a pap smear, for example, I was tested for STDs, and that was completely uneventful. and so not memorable, which is good, right?
Yeah.
You know, like maybe you want to remember something for being great.
Well, I mean,
but
maybe you can tell me a little bit. I know, even if it's, hopefully you
Yeah.
do remember it enough to tell me a little bit about how it went, even if it wasn't memorable.
it
in
was
that
completely banal and mundane, and
Where was it?
It was at Beth Israel with my with the nurse practitioner that I
Okay.
see generally,
sense. Yeah.
and it hurt a lot more actually than my previous pelvic exam, which would have been like 3 years ago, I guess, because that's like the standard. But but other, like totally normal. I don't know, no awkwardness.
What kinds of things did you talk about?
We talked about like here's the thing. She didn't ask me any like really detailed questions about my like sexual health or activity, and I actually don't have a good frame of reference for what those questions would be, because 3 years ago, like, I didn't have any partners and I wasn't sexually active, and so when that question comes up in a routine visit, you just say, well, I don't know, I'm not sexually active, and then they're just like, whatever. So I don't know like what she might even have asked, but when she asked who my partner was, she was like, the way she phrased it was, do you sleep with men or women? And I was like, well, my partner's a trans woman. And she was just like, okay. And like, didn't follow up on that. Like she could have, you know, different relationships are different, but like in theory, my partner could get me pregnant. And so even though I'm in a relationship with a woman, like there are certain concerns and considerations that come up that might not come up in other relationships that are nominally the same. So
Yeah.
I guess that I remember that. I was like, huh, you really didn't like ask any follow-up questions or for any details.
Did that make you feel any particular way? Like,
No, I mean, I didn't feel like bad about it, but I did make note of it. And I was just like, oh, well, all right.
do you think it's something that you might try, like, that if it happened again, you would try to, like, volunteer more information about yourself, or sort of,
I guess I don't know for what purpose, like, because I don't want to go on birth control. And like any sort of precautions my partner and I already take, like, of our own sort of volition. So I don't know, like, how it would necessarily be relevant, except that she didn't ask, so she doesn't have the information to know. Like, I have all the information because it's me, so I know that it's not necessarily a pressing or urgent matter, but she didn't know that. So I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily bring it up unless there was, like, a reason.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense. Are there any, particularly good or particularly bad? It seems like maybe the visit to the ophthalmologist, is that? Ophthalmologist was one that's, like, sort of stuck out particularly in your memory, but is there any other healthcare visit around reproductive health that sticks out as particularly good or particularly bad?
No, that kind of covers it. Nothing, like, extreme.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me about an experience you've had disclosing your gender identity to a provider, specifically within a reproductive health care context? If you have.
I mean, I did. I think I did. I disclosed to the nurse practitioner during the follow-up to the exam.
The follow-up to the
pap smear, the pelvic exam, yeah. I don't think she didn't really, like, make any note of it. She was just like, okay. I was like, I don't really... Because I think I led up to it with sort of telling her, she was like, oh, why did you come to Beth Israel? And I was like, well, I had been at Find My Health, and she asked how they were. She was like, oh, how's Find My Health? And I was like, not great. That's why I came here. So that was, like, the lead up where I was like, oh, like, I identify as genderless, basically, and go by gender-neutral pronouns, and even though Find My Health's, like, the trans place to get healthcare, I didn't have really positive experiences around gender diversity there, and or, like, the way that their attitude was. So she was just like, huh, weird, and then just kept, like, taking notes. So I did disclose to her, but again, it was something that wasn't eventful. But in this case, that's a good thing that there was nothing noteworthy or odd or off-putting or anything about the interaction.
I mean, it sounds like she sort of just moved on, but and is that sort of what you wanted out of that? Or?
Yeah, like, when I go to a doctor for any reason, I just want it to be just like by the book, essentially, just completely routine.
Okay. Do you mind telling me a little bit about sort of, it seems like Fenway, you've mentioned like not having the best experiences there. Is there anything you can tell me about that?
Yeah, I remember that they were really pushy, so I knew that I like maybe was trans. So when I first started going there, so this was years ago, and I don't have a good sense of like the timeline. I knew that I might be trans, but I wasn't totally sure like how to describe that or what I would identify as or anything like that. And I wasn't going by